Welcome to the first episode of That Weird Friend podcast. I'm your host, Ariana Kaminsky, and if you're weird, I hope you'll be my friend. So, if the sounds a little off, it's because I'm recording on not my typical microphone, but I just felt so ready to talk, and I know that if I go set up my microphone, then I'm just going to completely lose this train of thought, and then it will be lost forever, completely forever, and I will not remember it. I just realized why I've been feeling so nervous these past few months. I mean, it's definitely had to do with COVID becoming a big problem again, even though it never left. But it's because I've been stuck in the house, and all these problems or weird things that I thought I was doing and that only I have ever done are things that everyone does. But just because I've been in the house and not seen other people do them, I thought I was going literally crazy, because I would make mistakes and I would maybe bump into the couch and then think that I have lost all my sense of balance, when it's literally no big deal. And I was just being way too hard on myself, trying to be a perfect person, which is literally impossible. And if I was not trapped in the house, because I'm afraid of COVID, basically, because I still have long COVID symptoms, long story short. Anyway, if I was not trapped in the house and I saw other people every day, I would see that they also did these little things, like bump into a rock because they didn't see it there. That's not a big mistake, and I don't know why my brain completely made it into a huge mistake when it's so little. And this might sound completely so stupid, and why did I think I was going crazy because I was bumping into stuff? But it's not just that, it's the culmination of all that stuff, me being hard on myself because I forgot something, when we're in the middle of a pandemic, and when you're stressed, you can't remember as good. Or maybe I was a little late to a Zoom call, or I forgot to call someone back when I was supposed to. All these things are just I was taking them way too hard when I messed up or made a minor error. And I mean, I just kept it to myself and thought I was being a complete failure. And it's just so comforting to look back at it now and just realize I was just being way too hard on myself and comparing myself to what I thought the perfect person was, when everyone stutters with their words when they get nervous, and no one except Morgan Freeman can speak and make sense with every single word that they say. Some words repeat, some people say in between every word, like me. There's differences between people and how they deal with different situations, but me, I just always go into the mode where I think I did something wrong and that I'm going crazy, or that I'm not trying hard enough. And that can definitely lead to a spiral where I go too much in my head and I overthink every single thing, like how I put the remote down on the couch, or what shoes I'm wearing today, as if that's some life-changing decision when I'm just walking around the house or going in the backyard to take out my dog. That might all sound like a ramble and mean absolutely nothing to you, but I just thought it was worth talking about, because sometimes people can go through this where they are so in their head and they might feel crazy, and that no one else has felt this way before. And I just want to say I have felt this way for months, and I didn't really talk about it because I figured that no one would be able to relate and they'd think I was crazy because I couldn't speak a sentence without stuttering, when that is just my body dealing with me being nervous. I was literally hating myself for just being human, making mistakes that all humans make every once in a while, or even every second of every day. I was just trying to make myself not be human, which does not make sense at all. And I realize that now. If anyone out there listening to this, even if no one is listening to this, if I'm talking to aliens in 200 years, if you're feeling stuck, or that you're stuck in your head and you don't think that you can do anything right, and you think that you washed the dishes wrong, or you did you folded the clothes wrong, and you're just overthinking every single thing that you do every single day, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and you don't have to do that. You can try to rewire your brain so you're not as hard on yourself. it's possible. So don't feel stuck, because you're never stuck, because change always happens whether you want it to or not. Sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. But I mean, if you're in a bad place right now, you can look up and know that it's gonna get better. At least now you know it has to get better from here, because you know what the bad feels like, and you can only hope for the better. That's what I have to say today. And first sponsor is going to roll right now.
This week's sponsor is Satan. Do you like fire? Do you like heat? I've got the perfect travel destination for you. Come join me in hell for a weekend you'll never forget, but you might want to.
Thank you to our sponsors. So I know it can be like really annoying when someone talks about themselves for a while, and considering this is my first episode of the podcast, I figured, what can I do to make you know me a little better, since you're not even looking at my face right now. Most likely you're just listening to my annoying squeaky voice. So I'm going to read you a few haiku poems that I wrote, and maybe they'll help you get a little bit better of an idea of who I am and what my background is. So the first poem is called Harry Styles, and please take these poems with a grain of salt, and please don't use them as a representation of my writing ability, because, well, you'll just see. Okay, so this is Harry Styles. Butterfly tattoo, a guitar and singing too, One Direction tunes. The next poem is called SNL. Adults act like kids. Jokes from ass hearts to ear ticks. Fun day at work. Tricks. Next one, end of semester college. Exams, essays, more. Grades galore on my red heart. Explosion of angst. And then this is a poem that I wrote about myself. It's called Ariana. Burst of rocket fuel. Tension in bones of giants. Weight of earth bowing. And the last poem is called Anxiety, which is probably the most important one of them all. A lava blanket. Get it away from my soul. It drowns me out whole. And that is the last haiku that I'm going to share with you today. Feel free to share with me on Instagram if those were completely terrible and if I should never read them again, or if you like them and I should continue to try to write more. If they were terrible, I will not read them ever again, I promise. So now I'm going to just, I think, set this stage for like my next episodes. And I think that because this is my first episode of the podcast, it's important to set goals. And I can have goals like written in my notebook or in my head, and I could forget about them and never look at them again. But I think if I say them, then maybe they'll become more real and I will start to take them more seriously. So that's what I'm attempting doing right now. So please don't laugh, but I'm going to say who my dream podcast guests are. And they are going to be big guests that might surprise you. So, okay, first person, Rupert Grint, which obviously Harry Potter. So, I mean, that one I don't even need to explain. The next person is Robert Pattinson, which I think if I had him on here, he would make me look normal, because he's just like the only person who makes me feel okay with being weird, because he's just so weird and random and I love it. Next person is Kate Winslet, which I think her accent, first of all, is great, and she is talented, and I would love to listen to her tell stories or literally talk about anything. Or if she just read the most boring story, it would still be more interesting just because she said it, and she just gives so much of herself to whatever she does. Next person on my list is Anne Hathaway, because Princess Diaries is my most watched movie. I feel like I watch it twice a month. I'm not lying, and I just always watch it all the time. And I mean actually watch it. Like, I don't put it on the background when I'm doing something. I put it on the TV and I watch it from start to finish, and then usually I watch the second movie right after. And a few years ago, they were actually thinking about making another movie, and I hope they actually do, but the director, I believe, is no longer alive. I'm not sure how it would be when you compare it to the other movies, and I take this stuff very seriously, so, I mean, maybe I could have Anne Hathaway on here once they make the third movie and tell her to tell me about the behind the scenes stuff. And by the way, I will probably stutter, and I'm not going to edit that stuff out, because when I listen to podcasts and no one stutters, it makes me feel bad about myself, because I'm like, I stutter and I talk in circles, and I think, yeah, it can be boring, so cut out some of that stuff. But if I stutter a few times, I'm just gonna leave it, because I'm a person and I stutter, and I don't need to cut that out. And the last person on my list is Bill Hader. I have seen interviews that he's done, and he talks about how he has like bad anxiety, especially when he was on SNL, and how he just was in not good shape emotionally before like going on stage, and it was so much pressure. And I just really admire him that he was feeling that, and he still like kept forcing himself to like do it. I mean, it would have been so easy to like stop because of how hard it was on him. And I mean SNL was like a dream of his, and you might think someone would be crazy to like stop doing it, but when he describes how he felt, I'm like, that is how I felt. That's how I feel when I'm like really nervous, when like the world is spinning and like I can't breathe. And I can't imagine how he performed on SNL feeling like that. Like he's like obviously naturally talented if he was able to just do all those performances and he was feeling like out of his mind. So I would really want to talk to him. So those are the people I have down for my dream podcast guests, and I'm sure there's other people. I mean, I have friends and people that I've met that I want them to be on here because I admire them and I want an excuse to ask them questions. So those are as much of my dream podcast guests as like these people. But if I went out and I just named my film friends, you wouldn't know who they are. So I'm not going to bother doing that. But hopefully you know who all the people I said are, because they're pretty great. I think I'm going to take a break right here, and this is going to be the end of the first podcast. I plan on doing it every week, but I need to see like what kind of schedule I get into and seeing if that's doable. So hopefully every Tuesday I will have a new podcast episode posted. But if I don't, it should be every other Tuesday. And you can always check my Instagram at alohaarianna, and I'll probably post updates on there about how it's going and if I need to change my schedule. But eventually I want the podcast to be a little longer, but as I'm starting to figure out like what I want to talk about and what works and what doesn't and what's interesting and what is not, I don't want to bore you. Or I don't want to record an hour podcast and people only listen to the first 2 minutes. So I'd rather just start off short, so I can really think about what I'm doing consciously and work from there. So I am so thankful that you decided to listen. And if you're still listening to this, like as I'm talking right now, you're listening to this and you listened to everything before this on this podcast, I am so thankful for you. So thankful that you put up listening to my annoying voice for this long. And I really appreciate you, and I hope you're doing okay. I hope you're actually doing okay. That's not just empty words that like some people say that they hope you're okay. I really hope you're okay. And I hope you have people around you that make you feel great, because everyone should have those type of people. But not everyone does, and that's really hard. So not to end on a bad note, but thanks for listening, and I just want to let you know that I appreciate you. So hope to catch you next week on That Weird Friend podcast. I'm your host, Ariana Kaminsky, and I hope you stick around because I like your type of weird, and I hope you like mine.